Welcome to Circle Time, the Early Years podcast. I'm Glenn Denny. Now, my guest on this edition is a room leader who in their career has worked with the smallest to the biggest of our children, from babies to the current role within preschool. Welcome to the podcast, Ryan Bradshaw.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Bradshaw. So I've been in early years I've coming up 7 years now. Started off in toddlers as just a little taste to see what it was like to start off in toddlers. And then within a year and a half, I was promoted to baby room leader, which was way out of my comfort zone. Something that I've never done before. But it's something that I'm glad I did do. It made me really think about and think, was this a career for me? If it wasn't, then that was my time then to leave, but I'm still here. So it was kind of like that was like a shift in my career, basically. And I did that for about nearly 2 years. I had a little break. Decided I wanted to go into the big city and try and be a big boy, shall we say. Didn't work out for me that way. So I went back and started off at the bottom again. I was a practitioner, and then during the pandemic and worked my way up to room leader of a preschool, which I was there for overall about a year. And then I moved jobs to another preschool now, where I've been there since January. And I've just passed my BA honours as well. So it's just been like a whirlwind so far, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
It is. It's definitely that. It's pretty much a roller coaster within early years as well.
Yeah.
I can relate as well, like you were saying about being out your comfort zone, working with babies. I was baby room leader for, goodness knows how many years. And it was one of these, it's like, I've not worked with babies in so long. What do I do with this thing? And then I actually loved it. Absolutely loved it. But I think like you, it sounds like it gave you the grounding to understand where the children are starting from to where they are now within your preschool role.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough when I started in the baby unit, a bit like yourself, had no idea. I've never changed a baby's nappy. I've never fed a baby before. It was all new to me, and it was kind of learning the ropes. But I learned through doing. So it was more, so someone showed me what to do, I just learned it, and it became natural. But I did have doubts. I doubted myself very much. This isn't for me. I'm not a mum. I don't have that maternal instinct. And that was one thing that played on my mind constantly. I used to tell myself, what am I doing? I'm not doing this. And there was something there that thought, no, I can do this. And then by the end of it, I was lucky enough to watch these children that I had from, I think it was about 6 months. I watched them graduate preschool. So they were with me in preschool last year. So I was lucky enough to see them all the way through their journey. And that to me was, I think that's what makes the job so magical. I don't feel like there's any other job that you get to witness these little things that come to you that don't do much and then do everything, and the journey that they take on board and do all that. It wasn't a very, I felt like a proud dad in the sense of I watched them become these amazing little people and take on the big bad world. But yeah, it was finding out, like, because a lot of people say babies don't do much. Well, actually, they do quite a lot. All they do is just eat and sleep and cry. Like, they do so much more. And it made me actually think about, okay, like activity-wise, what can babies do? Well, actually, you've got so many resources around you that I didn't even think about using until I was in the baby room. So, like, I never really thought about using like food play and things like that, sensory play. And just singing to them and dance and like clapping, making noises and reading to them and things like that. It was all like basically the groundwork that you do, and then you help them. That helps them carry on into throughout the nursery journey. So it was a very. I'm glad I did it. I'd do it all over again as well.
Do you feel it made you sort of a more rounded practitioner now?
It made me, it made me feel like I knew what I was doing. I belong here in this type of in the industry that we work in. Is And I feel like a lot of parents as well that had, 'cause I remember one parent, we had, it was like a show round, and I was talking to one of the parents that were bringing a baby, and the first thing she said to me was, "We don't usually see a male down here, or
Mhm.
in general, um, or if we do, they're up in the higher,
Yeah.
like upper part of the nursery." And I was like, "Well, you got me," and I assure you that these children are in great care and all this that. And it was just, but that to me didn't click with me. I didn't understand that because I just assumed, didn't realize that until I did my uni degree, where actually are the males in early years? Where are they? Because it's
Yeah.
not me. I've never actually worked with a male of a male before. It's always been me. So
Mhm.
it's it maybe questions of where actually are they? Is there any more? Am I the only one type of thing? But it never stopped me. Just maybe become more passionate about something that this is what I needed to do. Because like I said, I didn't choose to do this career path. I kind of fell into it.
Mhm.
I originally wanted to do I did IT in college, and I wanted to be an IT um, teacher. But during my so I did like my level 3 IT, but I realized it was just getting repetitive and it was boring me because I just kept doing the same thing. So I wanted a challenge and I went into childcare. I backed out the first time around because I didn't want to be the only boy.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be in the room full of girls, but it turns out I wasn't the only boy in my course. There was about 6 other lads on the course, which was quite a very big, like, oh, okay, that's quite cool. And then I did that. And then they put me in key stage 2, I think it was, during my childcare. And then I went into reception and I fell in love with it. Like,
Mhm.
everything about the play aspect, everything. And I thought I can be a child as well. So this is perfect for me because I can be a child and I get to sit there and watch these children grow. So I did that. And then that was it. Then I kind of just like fell into it and never looked back.
No, it's interesting listening to you there because I'm like that. That's mirroring my career. I mean, I've got about 20 years ahead of you because I'm coming up for 27 years now. But it's interesting. It's like, I mean, you were quite lucky as well. I mean, there was 6 of you on your course. I was the only one, and there was 2 classes for my HNC that I did. And out of, I think there was 50 of us all together, and I was the only male in my course. And it's just, it's one of those things like you as well through my whole career. I've usually been the only one there. Currently, the setting I'm in now, there's loads of us. It's ridiculous, but it's just bonkers how that happens.
Yeah, it was my degree course. I was the only male, and I knew I was the only male because when I walked in for the first day, the woman came up to me and went, "You're Ryan," and I instantly knew that
Oh, yeah.
you know my name, so that means I am the only boy, which was not an issue. It was absolutely fine, because I've been used to it, so it doesn't bother me. And then my final year, there was only a group of 6 of us, and there was 4 girls and one other boy. So it was nice to have
Mhm.
someone else that I could kind of like talk to about things that would understand it from my perspective. I feel like men and women have different perspectives on things, and
Yeah.
speaking to them, they understand, they get it. You talk to them, but I don't think they fully understand it from my perspective. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. I
Yeah,
mean, I can get it because
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
childcare as well.
yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like, I mean, there was that bit in the news sort of early on in the year about how the sort of percentage of men in childcare has dropped again.
Mm.
It was like the astounding number of 3%. It's now 2% of the
Yeah,
workforce. It's like, what? We're like
yeah,
a rare breed nowadays.
yeah. It's very rare, and that's what it's because when I was doing my dissertation research, I was like, why is there
Mhm.
where there is obviously there is a gender gap in the early years sector, but I think in the education sector as well, and it's not just early years. I feel like primary schools they have more males, but not as many as they should have, if that makes sense. So I've been looking at, for my dissertation, I was looking at research by like the Fatherhood Institute, Jeremy Davis, and things like that. And obviously, they had a goal within like to try and raise the percentage of the retainment of male early educators. But in the last 20 years, we've not moved. We've not moved that much. And you look at, I looked at it because my dissertation topic was about looking at comparing it to European countries and what they do. So I looked at like Norway and like Norwegian side, and they have a higher it was 10%, not as high, but it's higher
But
than
it's still a lot higher than us.
higher than what we've got. Germany as well, still a lot higher than we have as well. So it was interesting to see what they're doing. That were the lessons to be learned that we could do, that learn from them type of thing. And I think it's a whole bunch of issues that stem. So like obviously childcare for starters, the childcare itself, it doesn't appeal.
Mm-hmm.
And they just think it's just people just think it's looking after children. Actually, it's a lot more. it's a lot more. A lot of my friends say you just look after children. So, no, I do a lot more than that. That like I help them build their foundations for their life. As we now there's more understanding of the 1,001 days, like how important necessarily will like brain development, everything, like it is so important. And I think now the more we champion this and we shout out about it, I think it will attract people to the sector in general, because it's not just you're looking after a child all day. No, you're much more. You're the foundation. You're going to be the first person to help bring that child, set the child on the right path for their all life. And it's just like, so things like that. And I feel like obviously pay is not great, but that's across. It's not just a matter about being male or female. The pay in the sector is shocking anyway. So why would you want to? Well, I don't do it for the money. That's not why I do it. I do it because I want to make a difference. I want to be that change. I want to be that influential like part of me where people go, Ryan, I know Ryan. He did this, he did that. Or when because I think that's what's quite nice about when I left my old job. The children still talk about me now.
Yeah.
And I'm still not there. And I think that to me means I've done my job properly, because they remember me and they know they'll give them the experiences that they don't forget, which I think is a really big part. And I also think obviously pay and just gender equality across is a big thing as well. And I feel like looking at like Norway, for example, who have got it right, who treat men and women as equals.
Yeah.
With like their parental leave and things like that, and they have like when people have babies, they get the same amount of time off and things like that. And I think it giving more value to the fathers as well, that they're not forgotten about. They're just as important as the mothers. So yeah, that was one thing that came up in my research that I looked at, and also just a stigma around. And there is still that stigma this day and age that people think men and children together abuse, and it's just like we need to try and come away from that. But I think we are shifting. I think there is a shift, and it's slowly. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in the next 10 years. But we're slowly getting there. I think we just need to. I think with the perceptions are changing, and I feel like nurseries and like early year settings now are a lot different to what they were 20 years ago. Because I can imagine they're probably different from when you started.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
When I started, there was no such thing as a curriculum for early. There was nothing. There was like you literally went in and played all day. You planned some play activities, and that was it. But now, like you say, there's the more understanding of brain development and early years development, the 1,001 days and all that. It's like there's huge shift in what's known about children and how they develop.
Yeah, which makes it more like a profession, not just a nursery nurse type of thing. You're an early years educator. So automatically then changing that language from a nursery nurse, you give yourself, that's value. That's, I've got a title. That means something now. And I feel like that is another thing as well, is the fact of it's much more now than just play.
Yeah.
You have like your curriculum, your safeguarding, like your SEN, you have a whole range of things that you need to understand to understand the child. And I think that's even though it is, majority of it is still play, but it's what you do with that play. It's the beauty of what play can turn into.
Yeah.
So I looked at that and stigma, and I also looked at like government, obviously what they can do, and obviously I looked at like Mighty and things like that. And again, for example, like I think it was Germany who had funding for male educators, so which then brought money into the sector, which then made men kind of like want to do it type of thing.
Mhm.
But I think the sector as a whole is struggling to recruit anyway, regardless of you're male or
Yeah,
female. I think recruitment is such a big thing anyway. So getting people through the door is a struggle anyway, because like it you can do another job and get paid more
mhm.
with less responsibility, if that makes sense.
It does. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that bit where you're going back to kind of, I mean, there's a lot of shouting about it, but not a lot of action has happened from the government, where the sector is grossly underfunded. Like, I totally agree that parents should be entitled to however many hours, like the 15 or the 30 free hour,
Yeah.
but it needs to be paid at the rate, which then allows professionals like ourselves to be paid at the proper rate,
Yeah.
in line with inflation. Like, so we're moving away from minimum wage, which is, let's face it, a lot of our roles are minimum wage.
Yeah.
And like you say, that's a barrier to a lot of people. It's like, well, I'm not going to earn enough to keep myself.
Yeah.
Why would I do that when I can earn more working in Aldi or wherever?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So it's like why that's exactly what you can do less hours and get paid more.
Mm,
Where in early years you have such a huge responsibility and you're practically shaping these children's lives, but yet there's no value to you because you feel devalued if anything. And with like, yes, I agree with the funding as well. It's great. Every child should have the opportunity to come to nursery,
mhm.
and you want them to be a part of that. But then value us, make it worth our while, if that makes sense. So like when you have like when they're changing the ratios as well, to
Mm.
and it's like that's more staff for us, which then means bringing. So it's just a continuous circle, and I get it, and I feel like there will be. I think there's going to be a shift. I think there will be, um, like this change that we're all hoping for. And I think, but like when you hear about all the strikes and things as well that have been going on, but yet the earlier sector still.
We still keep going. It
So,
was funny, like you were saying about the strikes there. I was actually having a conversation with one of my colleagues recently, and we both turned around and we just said to each other, what would happen if we went on strike? And we both agreed everything would come to a standstill.
yeah, because we I've had that conversation exactly the same. But why don't we just do it? Well, everything falls apart. We're the foundation that holds everyone together, so people can go to work without us because we're open till I think I open the nursery that I work at opens at 7:45. We're open till 6. So like a
Mhm.
school time, it's usually like 9 till 3 or 9 till 3:30. Or so it is that we're open majority of the day. So if we said we weren't opening, people can't go to work. And it is, and it'll just start crumbling. So, but maybe that's what we need to do to be heard.
It is. It's important as well. I mean, it's kind of stemming back to previous points that you were making there as well about, you know, why maybe more men don't come into it is the lack of pay and then the perceived nature of child care.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we do care. Yes, they are children, but actually, there's so much more to it. But if they want, and like the government trying to interfere and make us more professional and throwing in curriculums and all this guidance, but yet they're not funding us properly. They want us to be professional, but they're not treating us as professionals. We're just there to dump the children.
You're not getting the pay for it type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really bizarre because you look at like Norway, for example, again going back to Norway again, to be in a nursery, to work in a nursery setting, you have to have a degree.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a degree. As here, it's you can go into like an apprenticeship and things like that. So to them, not saying that you need a degree to be a professional, but I think it just adds more value to the sector. Like, it's actually you need to get something higher to be into it. Because I feel like some people still these days just think of it as it's an easy option. I'll just do it because it's easy, and it's far from easy.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. Far from it. Far
Far
from
from it. No day is the same,
no.
and it's just that perception. I think it's a society's perception as well. Um, but then, like for example, when I was growing up, I fell into it because I was never offered early years. Early
Mm.
years was never like, oh, why didn't you try early years? That was never an option. It was always just do primary, primary, primary. like that way, more after reception onwards. Never early years was never there, and that's what I found in the research as well, is that careers advice doesn't offer early years as a pathway. So if you don't know about it, why would you want to do it?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking back to, you know, my days in school, and actually, yeah, that was it. So I did a work experience placement, sort of my last one before I left school, and I went to a play group and loved it, absolutely loved it. And this is when I said, yeah, this is what I want to do, and I chose that from when I very, when I was leaving school, and they were like, really, is that what you actually want to do? So you don't want to do something else? I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's just those looks that you go like, really, you want to work with children? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think that was another thing that I looked at, was like how important careers advisors have to give every option available
Mhm.
that could potentially think, actually, I can do that. But then I also think when you go to when you go into a setting, all you see is females.
Mhm.
And that is quite, when my first time in a setting and I walked in and I just had all these females staring, it is daunting. And you're like, "Oh, okay, right, just breathe, I'll be fine." And you walk in and obviously it's a breathe. But I feel like for someone that's coming into the sector fairly new, that could be quite like, oh, I don't think it's for me. But having someone, seeing another male practitioner maybe, and being like a buddy to them, or seeing them be like, actually, I
Mhm.
can, there's someone else like me type of things. And I also think about like when you do like recruitment days and things like that, showcase. If you have males in your setting, showcase them,
Mhm.
take them with you, because you will attract more.
Yeah.
But you see, because I think I was looking at reading something, and it was more like this gender schema theory that I was reading about, and it was basically the idea that children see what children see, children will do. So if children see men, like their mum's caring for them and the dad's going off to work, that's what they believe,
Yeah.
believe in. So they'll think, okay, the boys go off to work and the mums do, and the girls do all the caring. How about if they saw the father doing the caring,
Mhm.
or the nursery teacher, it's a male doing the caring? It also changes perceptions, and it'll think, actually, I can. It opens up opportunities. And
Yeah.
it's same with like any job though, like so like women in like construction or engineering. It's things like that. So it's, but I feel like, yes, they have that women like engineering, that I feel like that's going up. But I feel like if early years sector's fallen behind in their gender equality,
But
in
it's
gender,
interesting you're saying about that as well. But there's been adverts on TV and in the press about women coming into engineering.
yeah,
Where's the men coming into childcare adverts?
yeah,
I've asked this question several times of various, like, if I've met government ministers or whatever over the time, and like, so what are you doing to increase men in child? And you get some load of government waffle, and nothing happens
no,
because it's not seen as important,
yeah.
but it is.
And I think I was looking at the early years workforce strategy as well that was put in place. Um, and the government said they will mention men in the childcare, and they did. And it was the shortest paragraph in this whole document. And it was just like, right, what are you doing? Actions. We need actions. Actions speak louder than words. We need to do something now. We need to act. We need to champion. We need to just showcase. And I feel like the benefits of having a male practitioner in the setting are phenomenal. And I think people don't realize that until there's actually one in there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so like I look at myself, and I'm quite a reflective practitioner. So I'm always constantly reflecting and like trying to do better. And I sometimes sit back and I watch my team and I observe and how women are very different to men, and how they play differently.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm like quite like, women tend to like think through and think, all right, we need to do this plan. I just go for it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it today. I'm doing it, and I don't really think of the risks or anything like that. I said I just go for it, and what happens happens, and I just enjoy it. But because I think men are better at playing. Personally, from my opinion, I think we know how to play. But then you have, when they tend to, it's not really happened to me, but I've read like articles and things where we're automatically given challenging behavior
Mhm.
or the rough and tumble or the physical activity.
Yeah.
And I feel like that again is the segregation of like it's the genderizing the roles. Like we all have a duty of care. We're all
Mhm.
early years educators. So let us be. Let us do. If I want to do baking, I want to do baking. Or another one that I was reading about, and it's one that was quite common as well, was nappy changing.
Oh yes.
Then yeah, and the parents' perception and people's perception of men changing nappies. But
Mhm.
if you had a child, you would change their nappy. So I don't understand the why an early years educator that is male, you have an issue with them changing your child's nappy. That's never happened to me personally. I've just read stories and I've spoken to people that it just, and it's one of them where it's like maybe because I'm only 7 years into this. I'm only 7 years in, and obviously the times are different now, are very different. But I can imagine whether you have had any negative experiences
Oh,
or anything.
several through my career, and it's only really been sort of the two, last two settings that I've worked in. It's never been an issue. Parents have never brought it up. Every other setting I've ever worked in, at least one parent has gone, I don't really want him changing a nappy. But I've had, yeah, I know, look at shock on your face, but it's true. But then I've had my management team backing me up and saying, he's qualified, he's been police checked, he's here to do a job. That's part of his job. He will
Yeah.
do that job.
Yeah. That's another thing though as well, that you had the backing of managers, because sometimes I feel like some managers, when I was speaking to people for like my dissertation, that the managers didn't back them. They just took oh, it's okay, that's fine, we'll listen, we'll do that what you said, you just won't do nappies. And I feel like that's the wrong approach. That's not what you should do.
Yeah, it's
If
not.
obviously if you don't like the fact that there's a male in the setting, then that's not the nursery for you. We
Mhm.
are all about promoting inclusivity and diversity, and it just shocks me that people still have those attitudes today.
Yeah. I mean, I've literally one manager, in fact, when this parent said, "Well, if you don't stop him from changing nappies, I'm going to take my child out." And they're like, "Okay."
Yeah.
That was it.
Well,
It was like, well, take your child out. We
yeah.
not being funny, but we can replace your child with another child because we have a waiting list.
And obviously, we're like say we're all DBS check. We all go through the same screening process.
And the
So,
fact that we're
but then,
qualified as well, we know what we're doing.
yeah, we know what we're doing as well, and it frustrates me because you look back at horrific cases like Vanessa George and things like that, and you look at that and you're thinking that was a woman that did that,
Yeah.
but yet women don't get the same.
It was in the spotlight for a short period of time, that case,
Yeah,
but it's still the perception that
yeah,
we're men in the nursery and that's what we're there to do. Well, actually, no, I've been doing this job for so long. I
yeah,
have raised, I don't know how many children. Some of my original children are like now married and
yeah,
whatever. And it's like, but they still know me. I mean, I was speaking to, and it's again going back to something you were saying about how they still remember who you are
yeah,
because we are such a minority within the sector. I had a video consultation with a consultant at the hospital recently, and he stood there and he was like, "You used to work at such and such a nursery, didn't you?" Yeah, yeah, you looked after my daughter. That was about 5 years ago, and
yeah,
yet still remembered everything because I used to say a certain thing to his daughter to try and encourage her to eat.
yeah.
He was like, "Yeah, we still talk about that now." Like, okay.
So it's those like experiences then that makes that from that things like that for me like makes I've done something right.
Yeah,
I've made an impact on that child's life. That the fact that they're still going home and talking about me now.
yeah,
They still, because the ones that I get videos from parents saying, "Oh, they're playing and they're talking that I'm there. Ryan's this. We're doing this with Ryan," and it's just like wow. I've not been there for 6 months, and I'm still the one first thing they talk about, or they ask me how I'm doing, where I'm going, and it's just like it's just amazing. Um, so yeah, so like having the benefits of men in early, and it's also showcasing that men and women can work alongside each other, and
absolutely.
showing that men are nurturing, they are caring, and it's good for the dads as well on the other males at work, because it's something. Because I don't know if you find it with me, if the dads will come to me and talk to me about their child, if they have, and I don't know whether it's because they feel like it's man to man. I'm not going to look down on them. I'm not going to think, oh, what you asked me that for? Like, it's like an even playing field. So I think that's another good thing as well, is the fact that it's showcasing that they can work together. But it's also good for the dads to have someone there to help value them and
almost back them up as well.
Yeah. So that was another thing. It was just a very interesting. Like you said, though, we've kind of like dipped a little bit. Whether or not we come back up, I don't know. But you find that most male, there's not many male practitioners. They're all like managerial roles, aren't they? So you kind of get promoted quite quickly as a male. Because someone once said to me, I won an award last year, and it was the first time I went to this like a ceremony, and there was like loads of really, really intelligent people that worked in areas. There were loads of people, and a woman was talking to me, and she turned around to me and said, "It'd be interesting to see where you are in 5 years' time." And it was like, "What do you mean?" Because where it'll take you to get to in 5 years' time, it'll take me 10. And I was a bit like complex by it. I was like, "Oh right, okay." And you kind of get pushed up the ladder quite quickly, which then defeats the objective because you're not on the floor then. Which is where you want to be, where all the magic happens is on the floor. Yes, it'd be great to be a manager, but it's taking that you're behind the scenes then. Yes, you make the nursery run the way you want it to run, but you're not the first thing that people see.
Yeah.
It kind of like defeats the objective type thing. But like I said, it's not going to happen overnight. And maybe one day in the future, we can be able to talk about this and say, we spoke about this 10, 15 years ago, and now look where we are now. We did it. We did it.
It'd be good being that voice for change.
Yes, and I think that's why it just needs to carry on to champion it. But I think ultimately the change has to come from above. We can do all the shouting and banging and screaming on the floor and do what we can on the floor, but if there's not a huge change up above, then we can only do our maximum will only be minimal, if that makes sense. So I feel like I think we just need to keep championing it and, like I said, talk about it. And I think there's a lot more talk about it, and there's a lot more like research and things as well that give credibility to like play and things like that. And I feel like it is becoming more of a profession, which is what we want it to be. And like you said, we're raising the next generation of necessarily the next generation of early years educators could be in our care right now. You never know. Like our experiences could shape that, our learning opportunities that we give them could shape their career choices or what they want to do. And so it's just, we have a very important job. And I think it's important that we realize that as well, that we are that child's biggest resource that they have. So let them utilize it. So yeah.
Well, let's keep shouting. Ryan, time's crept up on us, but thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. It's been brilliant to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.